All right, in this section, we're going to start coordinating the collection of data a little more than what we did before. This time, the first thing that we're going to look at are percentiles. The best I can do for that is to give you an idea of how they work. So, suppose you take a national test and score in the 80th percentile. What that means is that you did better than 80% of the people that took the exam. So you did better than 80% of the test takers. Now, we're not going to do a lot with percentiles. In fact, I'm not going to do much of all. All I'm really going to do is work with a couple of specific types. One of the most important ones is the median. This is the 50th percentile. So let me here's the data. I have 1, 2, 2, 4, 6, 6.8, 7.2, 8, 8.3, 9, 10, 10, and 11.5. So there's my data. And I've put it in order because that's what's necessary. And then it's necessary that you put the data in order so that I can organize it from lowest to highest. Now, the way we compute the median here is we try to pick the middle data, the middle data point. So let me count all the number of values that I have. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I have 14 pieces of data. So I don't have a middle number. So in the cases where I don't have a middle number, I have to do what I'm going to do in this problem. But if I had an odd number of data values, I would simply pluck out the middle one, and that would be my median. But in the case where you have an even number of data values, you take the middle two. This is data value 7 and data value 8. And then the median is going to be the average of those two values. And I think you'll find that that comes out to be 7. Now, we can think of the data as having two pieces. We have a lower and an upper. In fact, let me put the lower data and the upper data. Now the lower data was all the stuff up to 6.8. So we have 1, 1, 2, 2, 4, 6, and 6.8. And the other one, we have 7.2, 8, 8.3, 9, 10, 10, and 11.5. So you'll notice that we have 7 pieces of data in the lower data, and I have 7 pieces of data in the upper data. So then there's a couple other percentiles that I want. There's one called Q 1. This is quartile number 1. This is the 25th percentile. And that just so happens to equal the median of the lower data. And we can get that immediately by noticing that there are 7 pieces of data in the lower data. So all I need to do is pick the middle one, and it's this number 2 here. If you notice, there's 3 pieces of data before it, 3 pieces of data after. 2 is the middle number here. So Q1 equals 2. Likewise, let me split this off. We have something called Q3, which is the 75th percentile. And that, of course, equals the median of the upper data. And once again, it has a middle value as well. We count to the 4th data value, which is this 9, and that's Q3. Next, we define something called an interquartile range. And the definition of this thing is, let me underline it, we call it IQR, and that equals Q3 minus Q1. You'll find the bulk of the data will be contained between the 25th and 75th percentile. So in this case, we have 9 minus 2 equals 7. All right, in this example, notice that the data here is it has dollar signs, and it's not organized from lowest to highest. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come into the problem in here, and I'm going to copy it. Now, what you want to do is you really want to try to bring it into a sorting program. So the first thing I'm going to do with it is I'm going to start a notepad, and I'm going to bring it in. Now, if you go into here and go edit, you can replace. So the first thing I can do is I can replace the full colon. Well, actually, what I'm going to do is get rid of the commas. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the commas and replace it with nothing. So just, if you hit replace all the commas are gone. Now the next thing I'm going to get rid of is the dollar sign. And like before, I will replace all of those with nothing. And then finally, I'm going to put and change the semicolons like that to commas. So I'll replace all. So you can see the reason we had to do all this stuff is because this is the way that Desmos, which is the program we're going to use, likes the data. So let me copy all this data. Now the program I'm going to use in this, and you can use it as well, is a program called Desmos. And it's available at desmos.com. It's an extremely powerful graphing calculator. And it can do an incredible amount of statistical stuff. So what I'm going to do is, this is my data, so I'm going to call it capital D1, like that. And then you can do this. You can go equals and start a bracket. Now, if I hit Control V, it brings in all my data. See that? So now it's not ordered though. So what we can do next is I can start a list. Let me call it L1. And that's going to be D1, but sorted. Now, in order to display L, I would like to see this data in order. I'm going to type table, and it creates a table for you. So you can go up here and do L1, and it puts it in order. See? Now, let me bring this data in. So we were asked to calculate the IQR and if any salaries or outliers. We'll talk about outliers in a minute, but for the time being, let me paste in the data, and let me make it large so I can find it. All right, I got them all up here. Now there's 11 pieces of data. That means here's 1, here is 11. So since I have 11 pieces of data, I can find the median as data value number 6. So here's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So data value 6 right here, this is our median. And when you can do that, you get 54,000. So it's at this stage I can put the $sign. Now notice, if remove that, if you got the data value, take it out, and now our upper is these first 5 data values, and our lower is these 5 data values. So then, since they're also odd, right here, there's quartile number 1. Remember, the median is quartile number 2. And then down here, I pick out the middle piece of data again. That is quartile number 3. And the inner quartile range is going to be Q3 minus Q1. So that's what, 69,000 minus 40,500. So that looks like 18,500. At the very end is when I'm going to put in the units and everything. Now there's a secondary topic that it talked about, and that was outliers. So there's 2 rules. We have 2 possibilities. Less than (1.5) times the IQR, below Q1, or more than 1.5 times IQR above Q3. So you can think of this top one here is a lower outlier, and this one over here is an upper outlier. So the first thing I'm going to do is take 1.5 times the IQR. (1.5) times 28,000, and I end up getting 42,750. So now let's take a look at the lower outlier. I'm going to take Q1 and subtract that value. And Q1 was equal to 28,000, I think. Let me go back real quick. I'm sorry, Q1 is 40,500. And it really doesn't matter. This is a negative number. And there's no data in this table that are negative numbers. So I have no lower outlier. Now then, on the other hand, we might have an upper outlier. Let's look at this one. So I'll take Q3 plus 42,750. Now Q3 was what? 69,000. And that comes to 111,750. Now we do have an upper outlier. This guy right here is our outlier, because it's greater than 111,750.